Good morning children. I hope you all are safe at your places. This side Jyoti Nahar from Shiv Jyoti Educational Group Kota, and today we will be reading chapter number 8, that is body movements. So students, open your books to page number 103 and we are going to study about the body movements. Now children, you observe a variety of movements in your body. Your eyes are blinking, the pulse is going, you move up your hands and legs, they are moving, and all these movements are possible because of our skeletal system. And what is skeletal system? It is a system or it is a framework of bones. The bones, the makeup, the bones and the cartilages along with joints, they make up our skeletal system, and this skeletal system provides shape to our body, and again it gives protection to inner delicate organs, like as we have studied in earlier classes that the skull protects the brain, the rib cage protects the heart and lungs. So it is responsible for the protection of inner delicate organs. Along with these, it gives support in the movement of different body parts. The bones along with the muscles, they help in the movement of different parts of our body, and these bones, they are made up of calciums. They are white bony structures which are made up of calcium, and the bone marrow which is present in the bones, it produces new blood cells, means fresh blood cells are made in the bone marrow which is present in the bones of our arms and thighs. So, we are going to study about the skeletal. The skeletal, human skeletal, it is divided into two parts, that is the axial skeletal system, axial skeleton and the appendicular skeleton. So these are the two parts which comprise of all the parts of the skeletal. So children, we have our first internal question here that you have to write on page number 104. The first internal question is, what are the two main divisions of the human skeletal? And the answer for this is, the human skeletal is classified into two groups, namely axial skeletal and the appendicular skeletal system. You can find it on page 104 children. So you have to mark the first internal question here and answer too. So we are going to study about axial skeletal system first, and then we will discuss the appendicular. The axial skeletal system, as you can see, it comprises of the skull, the rib cage and the vertebral column. We are going to discuss these with the help of this skeletal. As you know, the skull, this skull is made of 22 bones. Among these 22 bones, 8 flat bones which form the bony framework, and this bony framework protects our brain. The delicate brain is protected by this skull. 8 flat bones are there and 14 bones which make the face, and these 14 bones are called the facial bones, and the skull is responsible for the protection of our brain. The second part is the rib cage, and this rib cage is a cage made by curved bones which are connected to the vertebral column at the back, and in the front they are connected to the chest bone or the sternum. We call it sternum. All the bones are connected to the sternum except the last two pairs of ribs, and these two pairs of ribs are called the floating ribs. In all, we have 12 pairs of ribs which form the rib cage, and this rib cage protects the heart and lungs inside it. And the third part which is a part of the axial skeletal system is the vertebral column. As you can see children, this vertebral column is made of 33 small ring-like structures which are called vertebrae, and these have flexible joints which allow us to bend, to twist and turn, and this vertebral column protects the spinal cord, which is a bunch of nerves carrying messages from all over our body to the brain. So, these are the three parts of the axial skeleton system. Now, we are going to discuss the appendicular skeletal system. The appendicular skeletal consists of the pectoral girdles, pelvic girdle, forelimbs and the hind limbs. As you can see here, the pectoral girdle, this is connected to the backbone, and a long bone which is the upper arm, this is connected to the pectoral girdle, and this is the pelvic girdle which is connected to the lower end of the vertebral column, and the pectoral girdle is connected to our forelimbs, the upper arm. This bone which you can see is called the humerus, and the lower arm consists of two bones which are called radius and ulna, and the pelvic girdle connects the legs, is connected to the legs, which consists of the longest bone of our body. This thigh bone you can see is called the femur bone, and this is the longest bone of our body which consists of our upper legs, and the lower legs again consist of two bones which are called the tibia and fibula. These two bones are called the tibia and fibula. These are the hind limbs and these form the forelimbs, and these are the pectoral girdles and the pelvic girdles. All these together make up our appendicular skeletal system. Now children, these bones along with cartilages. Now what are cartilages? Cartilages, they are soft structures which are softer than bones and can be bent easily. Like if you observe your earlobes, if you touch your earlobes, you find that this part is much softer than the upper part of the ear, and this part is not as hard as bones, but we can easily bend it or twist it. This is called cartilage, and the other parts where cartilages are present are between the joints, and this cartilage protects our joints from rubbing against each other. They are like lubricants and they help the bones to move and protect it from rubbing against each other so they do not get damaged. So, now we come to our joints. Now what are joints? Joints are the places where two bones meet, and we, according to the structures or according to their movements, we have divided the joints into three types, that is immovable or fixed joints which are present in our skull. We have discussed that the joints which are present in our skull, they are immovable, only the lower jaw bone is movable. And second one is slightly movable joints. They allow little bit movement which is present between the vertebrae of our vertebral column. And third one is the movable or synovial joints which allow movement, free movement in any direction. So, these are present in our arms, in our legs, like we are easily able to move our hands, legs. So, movable joints, we are going to discuss these movable joints. Joints on the types of movement they do, they are divided into four types, that is the hinge joint, the ball and socket joint, the pivot joint and the gliding joint. Let us see the first one, the ball and socket joint. In this type of joint, a ball shaped end of one bone is fitted into a cup shaped hollow of another bone. As you can see children, this is one bone and this is the another bone, and how they are fitted, you can see a cup shaped hollow, and this hollow is this one end of the bone which is round in shape is fitted into the cup shaped hollow bone of the other, and this type of movement is present in our shoulders. Here you can see, so we are able to move our shoulders. You must have observed the bowlers, when they are bowling, they move their hands at an angle of 360 degrees. So this type of movement allows maximum movement, and this type of joint is present in our shoulders, in our hip girdles. The second type of joint that we are going to discuss is the hinge joint, and this type of joint is present in our knees, in our elbows. This joint allows movement only in one plane. You can consider this hinge joint as similar to the hinges of a door. You must have seen this type of hinges of the doors, children. This allows movement only in one direction, forward and backward. Like you can open the door only in one direction, either it will move outside or inside. Similarly, this hinge joint, it allows movement only in one plane, and this type of joint is present in our elbows and in our knees. The second type of joint that we are going to discuss is pivot joint. This type of joint is present between the top vertebrae of our vertebral column and the skull. This joint allows our head to move up and down, and at an angle of 180 degrees. We are able to move our head sideways just because of this joint. This joint has one cylindrical bone which is fitted into a ring shaped bone. Another bone is in the ring shape, and one cylindrical bone allows movement up and down and sideways. So this is about pivot joint. The fourth type of joint that we are going to discuss is the gliding joint. Gliding joints, as you can see, it is present in the wrist and ankles, and this type of movement, this type of joint, it allows our hands to move sideways and also to twist and turn. Like I can twist my hand and turn my hand because of this gliding joint which is present in a, this gliding joint has one bone which is of two flat bones which can glide on each other. They can allow sideways movement as well as they are able to twist also. So this is present in our elbows and knees too. So these are the four types of joints that we have done, that is the ball and socket joint, hinge joint, pivot joint and gliding joint. Now these bones help in the movement along with the muscles. Now muscles, they help in the movement along with the bones. The bones, they are pulled by the muscles. There is change in shape occurs due to the contraction and relaxation. Whenever we are changing the shape or we are changing the position of our hands or legs, it is possible due to the contraction and relaxation of muscles, and these contraction, it causes muscles to bulge and shorten. You must have observed bodybuilders. When they are in the relaxed position, you are not able to see the muscles, they are not prominently visible. But when they raise up their hands or when they bend, you are able to see some bulges in their muscles. They bulges in the body, and these are muscles which they have, and these muscles, they are biceps and triceps. As you can see in the arms, we have two types of muscles, that is biceps and triceps. And how these muscles, they produce movement, we are going to see here. See, when we raise our arm up, like when we are lifting something, we are raising our arm up, the biceps, they contract and shorten and they become fatter. Here you can see the biceps have become fatter and the triceps are in the relaxing position. But when we lower our arm, what happens? The condition reverses, like the biceps come in the relaxed position and the triceps, they contract and become shorter, and these muscles, they are attached to the bones by strong fibers called tendons. So when these muscles, they contract and relax, they produce movement by pulling the bones with them. So we are able to move our bones according to the contraction and relaxation in the muscles. Now we have three types of skeletals in animals. The animals, they are able to move because of the skeletals, and these skeletals are of three types, that is hydrostatic, that is liquid skeletal, and this type of skeletal is present in worms. The spaces between there is liquid which is filled in the spaces in these worms, and exoskeletal which is present in cockroaches and crabs. It gives protection to the body, and endoskeletals which are present in our human body and birds. We have the skeletal system which is present inside our body, and it gives shape and support and helps in the movement of body. So children, we are going to study about gait of animals, how the animals move. Gait means locomotion, gait or locomotion. And what is locomotion? Locomotion is the movement of one organism from one place to the other is called the locomotion. So we are going to study about the locomotion in different animals like earthworm, snail, cockroach, birds, fish and snake. Let us first take up earthworm. How is an earthworm able to move? How it moves? We are going to study. Now, the body of earthworm, it has end-to-end rings. It is in the form of segments. The body is divided in segments from one end to the other. And how these earthworms are able to move? The earthworm extends its front part. The front part is extended and the back portion remains fixed to the ground. Then after that, the front portion remains fixed and it releases its back portion and it shortens, or it releases the end portion and shortens the body. When it shortens the body, it pulls the back portion forward and a slight movement is produced in the body. As you can see, there is this repeated contraction and relaxation in the body. It shortens and extends. This extension and relaxation in the body, it produces slight movement, and this repeated contraction and releasing the body, extending the body, it produces movement in the body of earthworm. And these earthworms, they secrete a slimy substance which help them in the movement, and a large number of hair like bristles are present under the earthworm's body, and they help the earthworm to hold grip of the ground. So, this is how the earthworm is able to move. Now, we are going to study about the locomotion in snail. As you can see, the snail's body has a calcareous shell and only the muscular foot is able to see, and we are able to see only the muscular foot which helps the snail to move. As you all know, it moves very slowly, and this snail, it uses its muscular foot for clinging and for motion. It moves in a wavy motion which causes very slow movement in the body. Next is a cockroach. Now, this cockroach is an invertebrate. It has exoskeletal. The two that we did earlier, that is the earthworm and the snail, they have liquid skeletal, and this has exoskeletal, means the skeletal is present outside the body. Its body is divided into three parts, that is the abdomen, head, thorax and abdomen. The three parts into which the cockroach body is divided is head, thorax and abdomen, and its body consists of 3 pairs of legs and 2 pairs of wings which help the body to in flying. So, you can see cockroaches, they can climb, they can fly and they can walk also. So, these 3 pairs of legs, they are used alternately in walking, and the wings, they help it to fly. Next, we are going to do, children, this cockroach is the fastest land insect. Now, locomotion in birds. As you know, the birds, they are able to fly in the air because of their light weight, and what makes its body light in weight is the light and hollow bones, and the breast bones, they are modified, while the forelimbs are adapted as wings which helps its body in the flying or in the movement in the air, and strong shoulder bones help the bird to flap its wings which help it to move or fly in the air. How it flies in the air? We are with the help of wings, and these wings produce 2 types of movements, that is downstroke movement and upstroke movement. What happens in the downstroke movement? The wings, they push the air downwards and propelling the bird through the air. In this motion, the downstroke movement, the bird is able to move in the forward. When the wings are in the downward position, the bird moves in the forward condition, and in the upstroke movement, when the bird, it takes its wing in the up movement, the wings, they twist open and they allow the air to pass through, leading to lift the wings. The wings are lifted and they allow the air to pass through propelling the bird in the forward direction. So, this is how a bird is able to move in the air because of its streamlined body. So, children, you have your second internal question here on page number 110. What do you understand by streamlined body? The answer is given in the keywords on page number 111, children. Streamlined body is shape that is narrow in front and broader in the middle. So, the birds, boat, they all have a streamlined body which produces minimum friction or least friction is caused due to this streamlined body. So, you can write the internal question and mark the answer, children. So, this was about the gait in birds. So, these birds are able to move or flap their wings with the help of breast muscles which help them in flying. So this was the gait in birds. Now we are going to discuss the gait of fish, how the fish moves in water. What are the special features which help the fish to move in water? The first one is the fins, which help it to swim in water. Tail, it helps the fish to change the direction by moving in the opposite direction. It has streamlined body. Again you can see that it is narrow in the front and end and broader in the middle. So it is having streamlined body, and this streamlined body helps it to move through the water by minimum resistance, because minimum resistance allows this streamlined body creates minimum resistance, and this allows the body to move forward. And how the fish is able to move forward? Each fish, it has a set of vertebrae and segments, muscles are present there which continue from the head to the tail. How these vertebrae or the muscles help the body to move forward, we are going to see with the help of these pictures. Let us understand how fish moves. When the fish moves, the front part of the body, it curves to one end and the tail curves to the opposite end. You can see, children, that body of the fish, the front part is curving to one end and the tail curve is curved to the opposite end. Quickly, when this position is taken, just after this, the front portion moves to the opposite side of the earlier one. The front portion moves to the left side and the tail moves to the right side. This quick movement or this quick curling of the body, it produces a jerk in the fish body, which creates movement in the forward direction. So you can see, while changing or reversing the position, the body faces a jerk. As soon as the fish, it changes the position from right side to the left side, it experiences a jerk, and this jerk pushes the body forward, and the fish is able to move by this series of jerks which make the body of fish move forward. So this was about fish. Now how the snake is able to move. As we all know, it has scales. It do not have legs, no limbs are there. It has scales which helps its body to move, and it has a long backbone which is made of small bones, and also it has muscles which are connected. They are fat, although they are far apart, but they are connected to the backbone, ribs and skin, and it slithers with the help of many thin muscles and moves by making loops. You must have seen, children, when a snake moves, it makes loops. It moves in a curving direction, it makes loops. It cannot walk straight, and these loops, they push the body of the snake in the forward direction. So this was all about locomotion in animals. So we have covered all the topics, children. We have discussed the internal questions too. I hope you have understood the chapter and written the internal questions also. Thank you, children.